Aglio e Olio, Italian for garlic and oil. Now, this traditional pasta dish hails from Naples, Italy, and given how delicious it is compared to how cheap and simple it is to make, you could argue that it's the perfect food. Now, because it's such a simple dish with so few ingredients, it leaves a lot to play with. And that's what I decided to do. I got curious a couple weeks ago and started messing around with different variations, and I came up with something that I really, really like. Now, is it better than the original? Well, let's take a look. So first what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you the original, how to make the classic aglio e olio, and then I'm gonna show you my version that I played around with. There's a million different slight variations in terms of like 1 or 2 different ingredients that people add that are optional, and also how much of everything that you add. So obviously this is my version, and I'm gonna leave that in. So this is my version, and let's take a look at it. Let's start off by taking 3-4 cloves of garlic, depending on the size, and we're gonna slice them super thin, as thin as you can. Maybe not like razor thin like in Goodfellas, but pretty thin. Next thing you're gonna do is just pick some parsley and chop it up. You wanna yield maybe a tablespoon or so, 2 tablespoons, I don't know. Just, a good amount of parsley. And then, just to have it ready, we're gonna go ahead and cut a lemon in half, and that's all the knife work. Now we're gonna put our oil in our pan. Now it is a pretty oily dish, so you want a few good glugs of oil as opposed to just enough to coat the pan. And what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna start the garlic in the cold pan, and along with that I'm gonna throw in some chili flakes. Now the reason we're starting this in a cold pan is because garlic burns really easily. So by starting in a cold pan or letting it come up to temp more slowly, it's gonna be easier to control once it starts browning. Now as soon as you see that garlic start to brown, go ahead and kill the heat real quick. Take it off the burner. Because that oil's hot, that garlic's gonna keep going, and you don't wanna burn it, otherwise you're gonna ruin your whole dish. Now you just throw the pasta into the oil and garlic, add that handful of parsley, and juice that lemon. Now make sure when you squeeze your lemon, you put your hand underneath to catch all the seeds that come out so you don't get any lemon seeds in your pasta. Then you just toss it all together and put it on a plate and eat it. And this is really good. I'm wondering if I am arrogant in the eyes of God for trying to mess with a dish this perfect and this simple. But now let's take a look at my version. My version isn't as cheap, it's a little bit more complicated. It still turned out really good though. So it's gonna look the same starting out, but very quickly gonna see what I did differently. So again, we're gonna start with a few cloves of garlic, we're gonna chop them real thin. Same thing with the parsley, we're gonna pick it and chop it up. Now for something different, we're gonna take some sage leaves and we're just gonna pick a few of them, have them ready to go. Now we're gonna go over to our pan, we're gonna get the oil in the pan. As normal, I actually used a little bit less oil because of how I'm doing this, but there's still a fair amount of oil in there. And instead of starting with the garlic and chili flakes, we're actually gonna throw some cherry tomatoes in there. Just enough that you want for your plate, it doesn't have to be a ton. And now, because garlic burns so easily, we're gonna cook these cherry tomatoes for a minute before we even touch that garlic. So we're gonna cook the cherry tomatoes until you see them blistering. You'll actually might even hear some of them start to pop as they blister. Now, once those tomatoes have blistered and broken down a little bit, now you're gonna add your garlic and chili flakes. And again, you're just gonna cook them until they start to brown. But instead of taking them off the heat when they start to brown, you're actually just gonna pour a few glugs of white wine into the pan. Now that white wine, you're just gonna let go and reduce for a few minutes until it gets almost completely reduced. And now again, we're gonna throw the pasta into the pan with the parsley and the lemon, give it a little toss, and then we're also gonna mount it with a little knob of butter. Now, I do want to sidebar here and say that this dish was originally supposed to have shrimp with it. However, I bought my shrimp a couple days before I filmed this and kind of lost track of time, and my shrimp went bad and I couldn't use it. And as I usually do, I was filming at like 2 in the morning, so I couldn't just go buy more shrimp. So just try to imagine we have some shrimp in here, okay? And then again, we're gonna take this over the plate, and we're just gonna fresh grate a really healthy amount. I don't know if healthy is the right word, but a lot of Pecorino Romano. I actually like Pecorino Romano more than Parmigiano Reggiano, not by a lot, but by enough that I like it on my pastas. This is very different, but still very good. It's got a bit more of a creamy mouthfeel because of that butter. It's a little bit more acidic from not only the lemon, but from the reduced wine and the tomatoes. So it's got a lot going on. It's very good. Is it better? Is it better than Aglio e Olio? Well, it's kind of hard to compare. It's really good. It's really good. And it's more flavorful, for sure. But the Aglio e Olio is so simple, so easy, that it's hard to say that it's better. But I like it just as much. Maybe that's a little bit of pride there because I made it myself. It's completely original recipe that I did. I worked on, did a few different variations of it. So I'm partial to it, but I like both. Now, do me a favor and hit those buttons down there. Tell YouTube you like me. You know the game. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. Also, leave a comment telling me which version you'd like to try more. And as always, here's my Patreon supporters. I do also want to shout out on my Patreon. I've had a Patreon for over a year, and I haven't really done any sort of exclusive content for it. That's changing. There is now a series I have called Leftovers. It's a very low production, just me holding my cell phone camera while I cook and explaining what I'm doing. And it's nothing, it's just what I feel like cooking that day. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check out the Patreon. And yeah, love y'all. See you soon. Hey, how you doing? You're stupid.